The village is celebrating. It's an important event. Men and women of all generations are gathered around the enormous baobab tree, and the drums are going wild. All eyes are on the three effigies, three masks sitting quietly for the moment amidst the crowd. Dancers gambol about to entice the three masks to join in the dance. The women sing at the top of their lungs and clap their hands, encouraging the three masks to get up, as if their future depended upon it. One of the masks gets up and starts spinning around like a dervish in a dizzying circle, and at last into a trance. He is blocked by guards, but the mask has dance, which means he is happy in the village. All signs point to it being a favorable year, because among the Bolon people, nothing is possible if they don't commune with the masks. The Bolon people originated in the northern region of the Ivory Coast. In the 18th century, they fought a takeover bid by King Sékou Ouattara with his scorched earth policy and his desire to rule the region under Islamic law. The Bolons migrated towards southwestern Burkina Faso, where they tried to perpetuate their very special ancestral customs. The Bolon world consists of some 5,000 souls, about 20 villages, a microcosm lost out on the edge of the Sahara Desert. This land could be prolific if nature's whims didn't regularly make the residents worry. Here, every year, the people wonder if next season will be a disappointment, a satisfaction, or a disaster. By March, work in the fields is over. There are many granaries in the village, but few are full. There's not much more to be done, if not to patiently wait for the next winter period. Everyone limits himself or herself to doing just the routine activities. One of the most important of which is getting the animals water, at least a minimum amount. Their conditions may not yet be worrisome, but the animals are getting thin. There is less and less water, and rationing is already a necessity. They have to ensure that each family herd is able to drink a little. The residents of Cayenne are going to have to face the hottest and the driest months of the year. Nothing can be taken for granted. The women are never idle, for there is a twofold risk to this between seasons. On the one hand, the family has to be fed. Their usual meal consists of a thick millet puree to enhance with a gravy, which is in fact a piece of roasted meat or boiled fish. Green vegetables and fruit nearly become a luxury. The other risk is just as serious. They have to come up with some cash to meet the daily needs, or to buy water if they don't draw it from a well. But for that, they either have to have a surplus of goods to sell, or to draw from their reserves and lure in customers. In these parts, the only way is to sell at the market. The market is held every 5 days, a market without electricity, as elsewhere in the village. You have to set up early in the morning, wearing a smile and keeping in a good mood like all good salesmen, and staying patient right to the end. Even if this morning the shelves are a bit bare, some of the more well-off customers have the means to indulge in a few brightly colored knickknacks. Others run into friends and chat. That is an important part of the market. Deep within the market, where the occasional sellers are, the atmosphere is slightly different. You see more concerned looks. The women display the fruit of the previous evening's harvest, or sell bits of food for a few pennies. You get the feeling that they have brought their cooking to the market and that they are giving up a portion of their lunch. You have to bring in a few pennies. Otherwise, you go back home without having bought what you need for the next day. Life is not easy for the tiny Bolon community. But it has a first-rate ambassador, a real defender of the community's traditions, a clever, wise and lucid man, Raphael.
The Bolon are an ethnic group too attached to their culture, meaning that all Bolon customs depend on the mask, known as the do. The do is the common denominator of all customs amongst the Bolon. Customs masks come from the bush. When we ask the mask to come, each mask has a will to protect us. Among the Bolon, everything is organized by age groups. In Bolon village, you will see a whole class known as the Dobade. The Dobade are very important for the traditions. In village, they are known as the guards of all secrets. It's even said that they are the keepers of the keys of the village.
Dobade means the children of the great Do, defenders of the Bolon social order. They are responsible for everything that happens in the village, from organizing celebrations to arbitrating disputes. They are the representatives of the customary life rules and the way in which they are applied. These days, the Dobade have their hands full. They have to see to the proper execution of the korokiri, the feast that brings the masks from the bush to the village to protect its people. But prior to the korokiri, the village has to be at peace with itself. The Dobade scour the village in small groups, preceded by flute players to pay tribute to the koro, the elders, those of the age group that preceded them. The elders gather together at a very important place in the village and wait for the Dobade. Each age group has to pay tribute to the others. The eldest are the first to be honored. In this way, the village will regain its serenity. A kind of bush suddenly appears. This is the Kurba, a mask that enters the village to check on everything that is amiss. He has a cane to punish the wrongdoers. The flute players honor the earth-dwelling Bolon ancestors by pouring out a few drops of dolo, their millet beer. A second green bush or mask appears. He seems more agitated and more determined to play with the cane than the first. The men with the troubled conscience must not under any circumstance cross the Kurba's path. Nor should the married women or those of childbearing age. Both are at risk of a few whacks, and they are oddly absent from the village at the moment, guilty or not. The Dobade continue on their way to other crossroads, where the villagers have prepared a whole batch of dolo for the eldest. Dolo, millet beer. Today it is the unit of measure of the celebration. The more it flows, the more vibrant the tribute paid to the wisdom of the elders. It also counts as a fine when the elders decide to punish someone. It is assessed in liters, a precious gift that everyone appreciates without moderation. Some of the elders, more organized than the others, stock up for the night so that the feast will last till daybreak. The bowls fly every which way to get to the source of the beer, ensuring that revelers don't have to get up to refill, a wise precaution for some. In another neighborhood, fiber masks are winding their way through the alleys and surprisingly empty squares. These masks are looking to do harm to anything that moves, to such a degree that even the green masks prefer to hightail it. The fiber masks are challenged by an old man. He speaks to them, but the masks don't answer. Masks never speak, just act. The masks come up to the old man and lie down on his legs. He talks to them as if to reassure them. Maybe there aren't so many sinners in the village after all, he seems to say. So calm down. The three masks listen to the old man without responding. Then they get up and set out even more fervently in their hunt for supposed miscreants. Adults belonging to a younger age group than the Dobades, defenders of the Bolon tradition, have gathered at another crossroads. They are carrying the symbolic hatchet of their class and dance before forming a procession that heads to the village's main square. Once there, if all goes well during the day, they will greet the great Koro, the liberator, the one everyone has been waiting for. Tension continues to mount. A group of young men have gathered just outside the village. These are the Sekisho, the village guardian class. Among the Bolon, a Sekisho serves for 7 years before becoming a Dobade. The Sekisho maintain security in the villages. During the Korokiri, they have to go bare-chested, which doesn't seem to go down well, but the Sekisho have respect for tradition. The group heads for a specific spot. The green masks seem headed there too. The green masks rush to the foot of a tree that the Sekisho seem determined to protect. There is loud shouting. A group of very young boys are squatting at the foot of the tree. They are going to be initiated, and their eyes betray a certain concern.
Hear me, we are going to crack open your heads. We're going to kill you. If you tell the women that you've seen the mask, all will die. There are some children who do not want to look after their parents' cattle. There are others who do nothing at school. As of today, that's all over. You've got to walk straight and a narrow line. We're going to call for the mask, and they're going to kill you. Come to me, masks. Wait, mask. If the child agrees to obey, you or mask, you don't kill him. When you return home, are you going to say that you've seen the mask? Do you know where the mask lives? You won't tell that I was the one who questioned you. If you do, beware. Now swear and spit. Spit again. Spit again. Look closely. Look, I'm digging the grave where I'm going to bury you if you tell the women that you've seen the mask. You don't agree? Well, the mask, come here. Punish the child.
In the end, the children get away with just a good fright. But what a fright! An indelible mark has been left in these children's minds. They are not about to forget the power of the masks. But now, have the Sekisho done something wrong? Because the masks are now chasing them.
We are ensuring that the young understand all that. I mean, we don't want all that to disappear. But between yesterday and today, small changes have to occur. Not changes that go against tradition, no, but changes that go with. You can't always strictly impose laws like you used to.
The group of young men, the village guardians, head for the river. The green mask is not far behind. Their route is leading them towards a fetish that they have to walk around. The mask is right behind. Some seem to take this ceremony rather lightly, yet they would never dare to be absent. Years of initiation ceremonies into the Bolon tradition and their belonging to a very small community have subtly forged their mentalities. The korokiri and the masks are part of their lives. They have imposed their presence and their influence. The Sekisho are on trial before their elders, the Dobade, the guardians of the village against the children of the Do.
Come over here and stay quiet.
The Sekisho draw near sheepishly, and the criticisms begin.
All we ask you is that the feast be a success. You're responsible for all that happens here. And it's not good enough. You can do better. And just look at you. No hats. Remove your hats. And take off your shoes. We are the boss here. You got nothing to say.
The Dobade blame the Sekisho for the poor quality of the green masks and for not respecting the timetable of the rites. They ask them to prepare for the arrival of the great Koro. In the end, they order them to beat it. The guardians of the dogma are even obliged to show them the ritual path for getting to the main square. The young man did not bat an eyelash when criticized. All this play acting doesn't seem very modern, but for most of them, the future will unfold in this very village. They will live in their parents' house, take over their fields, marry, and live and die here.
Our customs makes us strong too. Which means that when we sit there, it's not what one sees outside. A moment comes when we sit to speak the truth amongst ourselves. Whether it be about health, about farming, relationship with the outside world. A moment comes when the people speak together without the presence of outsiders, and we speak the frank truth. Culture is like a law for us, a legislative law. We have to meet together to tell the truth to one another.
The Dobade are very proud of their encounter with the Sekisho, but they are in store for a trial too. The Koro, the elders, are waiting for them. The village has to be at peace with itself before the arrival of Korokiri.
No hats here.
Might as well settle accounts right now. Many of them are grandparents, but they are confronted by the elders and made to account for their activities in the village.
What's happening in the village is no good. You young people do any odd things. You think you know it all? You know nothing. Hey, you there. Sit up, no squatting, and come over here.
And the elders repeat what has to be improved. Stay together, and things are going to change once we're back in the village. It is still sort of a game in these intergenerational jibes. It is a chance to calm rivalries once a year, to play down jealousies, and lance the boil of nascent conflicts. An outlet is needed in this tiny, hard-to-leave community, and the Korokiri is just right for the job. Accused of certain things that they think unfair, the grandpas try to defend themselves. But there's nothing to do. The elders are always right, and you can't buck their authority. This is how the social fiber of the Bolons have been maintained for centuries. The men's community seems at peace with itself. The villagers can head for the main square to greet the great Koro.
Starting in '53, the Catholic mission arrived. Before 53, you had the Muslims. Then, in the 70s, the Protestants started showing up. But listen to that. When you're in Cayenne, there is a Korokiri feast or a Yungala feast. You're going to see the young people who are mobilizing. Why mobilizing? Because the people say to themselves that this tradition has to be kept up. Meaning, you mustn't say, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Protestant, I'm a Catholic. We have to stick together. That's what is very important for the Bolon and for the village of Cayenne. Then, afterwards, you can go to your church, Protestant or Catholic, you can go to your mosque, of course. But when you have this dough feast, we want everyone to participate.
But these practices are not to everyone's liking. In the afternoon, at the call to prayer in front of the small mosque, some 15 people respond and prepare themselves for the evening prayer. Not very many people. But Islam never managed to gain much of a foothold in the village of Cayenne. The Bolon don't want to become Muslims, to the point of seeking shelter in a very poor region. They want to remain aloof from all these influences. Islam and Christianity tried nonetheless to break through, but what can you do when faced with such a crowd and such passion, this belief in practices from another age? The village imam tries to respond.
There are 80 Muslims who come to pray here, 70 from the village and 10 outsiders. It is certain that these traditional rites existed well before our religion came here. But our religion deserves being respected in such events. Then too, there are other circumstances during the year when we should do without all these customs. Moreover, to be a good and faithful Muslim, they shouldn't take part in the village's customary rites.
In short, the customs should exist, but no one should take part in them. If the question is put to the priest or the pastor, the answers are just as ambiguous. The great Koro enters the village. The great Koro symbolizes the spirit of the bush. He will carry all the evils of the village away with him. Raphael would say, he is the wind against disease. Women don't take part in the celebration. That is, they're not far off, but they hide just when the great Koro appears. They mustn't see the mask. The great Koro goes wild. The frenzy of his dance is a revelatory sign. The men ask him to carry the village's evil far, far away, to make room for good influences and to give them his protection. The dancers and musicians redouble their efforts until they reach a kind of collective madness. The great Koro bows to the earth to pay tribute to the elders. With an even more explicit motion, the assessors waggle this leafy phallus to ask for the arrival of the female Koro, who will bring with her fertility and plentiful rebirth for the next harvest. The female Koro is not long in coming. The two masks embrace one another before returning to the bush where they have always belonged.
Men didn't want to get too close to Bolon women. But it was nothing. There is no myth. Before, it was said that if you made love to a Bolon woman, you shrank a few centimeters. That's what people say. We saw it wasn't true. A lot of men have children with Bolon women, and they haven't shrank one iota. They are very present, on the contrary. We are told that if you marry a Bolon, you become poor. Now I ask you, people in Bobo Dioulasso are poor, but they're not all married to Bolon.
The women, conspicuously absent till now, emerge in the village. First come the fiancés. Some of them have been engaged for a long time, sometimes even since they were practically infants. But Raphael says that arranged marriages are almost a thing of the past. Lady friends gather around 3 engaged women and go with them to where their future husbands live in order to pay tribute to the men. The good-natured bantering continues among the women until they have to open the fiancé's door. The fiancée squats on her future husband's doorsill. Her best friend then recites the compliment for her and offers the dolo. But there's no one home. Her future husband must be somewhere else for the moment. Nonetheless, the best friend recites the compliment and upends the gourd of dolo. Thus the ritual is fulfilled. The girls set out in procession to another house, where they will again find a closed door and no one inside. Arranged engagements can thus last for a while or a long time. The mothers too have to submit to tradition. They have to make peace among themselves and with their men. Equipped with a few dozen liters of dolo, the gentle spouses search the village in small groups, neighborhood by neighborhood, and catch anything going that might resemble a husband, whom they then harass for money. An old woman recites an appropriate compliment, and 2 gourds later, the women head off looking for other prey. For all the chores they had to do all year long, for all the nights they spent at home, for all the children they have brought up, the women can today demand ransom, bed ransom, and they do demand it, good-naturedly. The men give a few coins, sometimes small shells, cowries, that are still used here. And the booty will be divided up between all these gentle shrews. By the end of the day, they will have collected the equivalent of 90 euros, a small fortune in Cayenne.
I'll tell you this without varnishing the truth. The Bolons are rich in culture, which means, without lying to you, that the Bolons are not very well liked by the other ethnic groups. That must not be hidden, but it means nothing to the Bolons. The Bolons are not the only one with masks. You have the Bobo, you have the Toussiens, you have the Siamo, who have masks in Burkina Faso. But the Bolons have another history. People say good things about the Bolons, others say bad things about them, and I for one think that it's perfectly normal.
60 kilometers further south lies a Senufo village. The Senufo are an ethnic group of about 1.5 million souls, who are known for the beauty of their masks. The Senufo are the descendants of the Kong Empire, the people who forced the Bolon off their lands back in the 18th century. Today the 2 communities live in the same region. This old chief talks about the Senufo origins and of the mystery surrounding their Bolon neighbors. The old man explains that when they came here, they found the Bolon in Lasuru village. No one knew where they'd come from. There was no bond between us, he explains. No marriage, no kind of shared enjoyment. We don't have the same customs, he says. All of their tribal rivalry, in fact, can be summed up in a few sentences. The youngest resume talking about bad luck, of not respecting customs, of ignorance of each other's rights, and about their fear of the power of other people's masks. The old man stresses the fact that the Bolon have customs in which the Senufo do not participate, that they even have fetishes that the Senufo do not see, that they don't respect the traditions. But what traditions are we talking about here? The 2 communities that live so close to each other have ignored one another for decades. Fetishes and good luck charms of all sizes and shapes that are more or less discernible to the uninitiated. There are dozens of them in the heart of the Senufo village. Today the elders are paying tribute to some of them. Each house has a charm that is kept carefully. A man extracts from a high-perching room the skull of an antelope, followed by a lion, or 2 balls of earth and a wad of hair. The elders know that this fetish has protected the village against the innumerable attacks that have afflicted the region. The villagers also know that these charms, like the Senufo masks, are endangered treasures because they are much sought after by thieves and antique dealers. Some of them are exhibited in full view at the center of the village. So they try to protect these objects for their own sake, but also to retain their powers.
When people talk about seeing our mask, when people see how we bury our dead, when people see how we do our funerals, they don't understand. They say that there is a myth about the Bolon, that you can't enter or dig into. That's why we want people to see what the Bolon do. This jealousy I'm telling you about, there are people who really mistrust the Bolon. People mistrust the Bolon. They don't want to enter into it. They're even afraid of getting closer to our masks. They are the same custom, the same mask. There is nothing harmful to the Bolon.
The power of the masks. Everyone wants to play it down, but everyone talks about it seriously. The power of what comes from the bush. You also find it among the Dozo, the hunters among the Senufos. The clan leader gathers his neighbors together. They're all dressed in leather, ready for what promises to be an important hunt. Everything about the Dozo hunters seems to be done to a beat, with gunshots, more like cannon fire. A hunt with beaters couldn't occur without a preliminary ritual. The hunters have brought the skull of a roan antelope, an animal that they would all like to kill, if only there were any still left in the region. Told that the hunters were heading for the bush, the villagers gather in the main square. The whole village is in fact there. The antelope skull is brought to the middle of the square where the ritual takes place. By reciting a few secret formulas known only to him and pouring out a few drops of dolo, the officiating priest awakens the animal's soul. A man has knelt down with his hands behind his back. The priest raises the skull and circles the man's head with it. He is transferring the antelope's personality and strength. The man grabs the skull and slowly rises. The man antelope moves towards the crowd, imitating the animal's movements. Not feeling very confident, the crowd keeps a respectful distance. And appearing out of nowhere, the hunters are here. The antelope is no match for the skill of the hunters, and the coming hunt augurs well. The musicians consecrate the event, and the villagers will celebrate the good news late into the night. At dawn the next day, everything is made ready. The previous evening's ceremony has reassured everyone, and all are happy to think that the prey will be plentiful. The men have spotted a few fine quarry in the area. They have to group together to corner them. Some victuals are handed around, and the matches vital for cooking the game quickly on the spot, because hanging the meat out to dry is not a very good idea in this very hot region. Some 15 hunters have been named for the hunt, and the men leave as a group. The hunt leader assigns roles. Everyone more or less agrees with his assignments, and the first beaters take up their positions. It will be a day or two before the villagers see the hunters again. The responsibility of the men gone into the bush is enormous. Because the harvest was disappointing this year, game bags will have to come back to the village brimming. They will contribute to the season's food, and there might even be enough to earn a few coins at the next market. But for the moment, the village wishes good luck to its future heroes in its own way. Two days later, the hunters return. The Dozo chief awaits their arrival impatiently. But the band of hunters is downcast. Their kill is not very encouraging. A young goat and some muskrats, and that's just about it. The roan antelope's powers weren't enough to reward the hunters. The mask's powers did not really work. They'll have to have even more faith so that the hunt may be more prolific next time. But this doesn't prevent the men from sharing out the kill, however meager it may be. On this particular morning, the portions are tiny, but no one here would dare take more than the next person. Does believing in the power of the masks seem hard in the 21st century? When the land is harsh to such a degree, and there isn't much water, and solutions are hard to come by, custom keeps all of its power, for it is the last resort. These two women are going to the well, but turn away disappointed. There's no water. One of them returns to the village with a basin half filled, while the other one carries the empty gourd and the rope. But they will share the basin's content. At this end of March, there is practically no hope that the rains will come. At best, they will have to wait till the end of May. Most villages in the region cannot boast of having even a small portion of river. What's more, if you look closely enough at the feet of the trees, you can see that the water level has dropped compared to the previous year. The annual rainfall in this region is about 40 centimeters, the same as the south of France, but only over a 4-month period, and in just about 30 rainstorms. It isn't so much the lack of water and the infertility of the soil that caused the problem here, rather the unpredictability and the violence of the rainfall that sweeps over the ground and ruins the farmer's calculations. A few meters away, a worn-out old pump brings the precious liquid to the fields that wouldn't otherwise have existed without this manna that refuses to fall from the sky. The fields have been divided up into tiny parcels. Each square meter of land is irrigated, with care being taken not to let the water flow too rapidly, for it would carry off a layer of fertile earth, or not penetrate sufficiently into the ground, which would then burn the seeds in just a few hours. The reservoir is a few kilometers away. It promised to balance the water supply of all the surrounding villages, but the exposed banks say a lot about the situation. The cattle raisers bring their herds to drink once a day. They themselves realize that they can't overdo the watering, for it takes several months to fill up the backwater again. Then too, if it rains buckets like last year, the dam overflows in just a few days. The water won't percolate down into the ground, and the erosion will be even more devastating than a drought. A little further off, young people are splashing about in water filled with grass and water plants. A hard job. It wasn't easy, but they found a solution to 4 problems at once. Cattle can be fed with the grass. The kitchen gardens can be watered. Part of the fields can be fertilized, and a little bit of space can be saved for another essential activity for family survival. In this same backwater, a pocket of water has remained among the grass, leaving just enough room to fish. Whether using a handheld or a cast net, the problems remain the same. First, you have to exercise a lot of patience to untangle the nets. Then, you have to deal with a recurrent problem. The water is low in this season where the temperatures can reach 60 degrees Celsius during the day. The heated water no longer provides the fish with the oxygen they need, and they inevitably die of asphyxiation, making eating them a hazardous venture. As for the catch, it is probably enough to feed the family for now.
After that comes the big moment of the Kurba. The Kurba is very important in all Bolon villages. The Kurba is a feast that prepares for the beginning of winter. It's a feast where all the Dobade in the Bolon villages ask the cororo, how will the rainy season be? What will the coming rain be like? All the spirits that come from the bush get asked for a good winter season, that the rain may be good.
The village of Kayan is now ready for the great feast, the arrival of the spirits, who, by entering the village, will reassure the inhabitants about their future. Everyone wants to witness it. The first to arrive are the Sangari, the guardians of the masks. The shell-decorated fiber masks precede the drums and assume benevolent postures that announce good news. The villagers welcome and dance with them. The women are now very present and dance with them in step. Then comes a wooden, double-sided mask. The character's double aspect unsettles the women a little, For on the back side of the character is a jolly child, while the front side is endowed with an enormous phallus that he would love to use. And the wretch does his best to woo the female sex, anxious as he is to deliver good news to them. The Sangari, the guardians of the masks, go around the village so that everyone may be informed of the coming of the spirits. They seek the village's complicity. And to reassure the people a little bit more, they open the path to the House of Masks, those benevolent spirits who will move in with the villagers for the coming winter. The crowd has now assembled to greet a curious character, Paitai, the Red Mask, a tiny mask with unlikely gestures. It is hard to understand how the puppeteer does it. Lying on his back, he holds in his hand the sticks that run through the puppet's sleeves. Paitai, carried by 4 strong men, twists and turns in every direction and harangues the crowd to announce the imminent arrival of the spirits. Men and women are now grouped together in the same frenzy to acclaim the one who is the closest to the hyena and the buffalo. This year, there is an even more pressing need for luck. The traditional chiefs wanted to do everything they could by provoking Paitate's arrival, so that everyone's wishes could be granted. Everyone knows that when the red mask returns to the bush, the white masks appear. This is the sign everyone is waiting for. The 3 masks are there, momentarily seated. They symbolize 2 big animals, the hyena and the buffalo. Thanks to them, luck and prosperity will inhabit the village. If the masks accept to dance, the Sangari are the first to dance. The women encourage them by clapping their hands with gusto. Then comes the turn of the golden hyena. Everyone is familiar with this incredible dancer. But today, no one must recognize him because for the occasion, he is the protecting spirit. The mask launches into a whirlwind of gesturing until he loses his balance. Assistants stop him before he enters into a trance, for these spirits of the bush must not do divination. Despite the precautions, the dancer emerges exhausted. Buffalo mask, a woman's mask danced by men. The dancers do not belong to a caste of initiates. They just have seen the older generation dance this way, and they imitate them. They have made these masks and preserved them carefully. When the day of the Korokiri arrives, these men take a portion of the collective responsibility for bringing happiness and protection. Today they symbolize hope for everyone. At this moment, and the power of the masks on the Bolon people leave no room for doubt. If there was a doubt today, or even the slightest fear in certain minds, it would be in Raphael's, and would be about the Bolon's future.
But what will happen tomorrow, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years? So what's going to happen next? They're going to come to the Bolon and sweep everything away. Then it's finished. Will anything remain for us? Because that's one of our strong points, our customs. So what am I worried about? It's that they all take everything away and we'll be left without any power tomorrow. Yes, really, I'm afraid of that. My hope is always that our customs, we accept this opening and that it gives us relationship, but that we remain amongst us, so that the people can know what it means to be a Bolon. The Bolon cannot remain in their mud. Yes, you there, little Bolon. No, no, no. We want to live with people. We want people to come see us and us to go see them. And that these customs might bring us something. But the basics have to remain.